Tingyun Fugue. Yep, who doesn't know this one character? This character is eagerly waited by almost all players in this game, because besides having a beautiful and charming appearance, she also offers a myriad of buffs that can improve your Super Break team. Indeed, I have already discussed a little about this character in the previous video, like her highlighted kit, and also some comparisons between Fugue and Harmony Trailblazer. But it feels incomplete if we don't discuss more about Tingyun Fugue, so that you can better understand and maximize her abilities. So without further ado, here I am with PD Gamers, and we will thoroughly explore the ultimate guide to Tingyun Fugue version 2.7. Let's do this! Do you have a character or weapon in the game that you really want but you don't have enough Stellar Jades? Here's a smarter way to recharge your favorite games like Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail. Look no further than Loot Bar. Loot Bar is the most reliable top-up platform. It saves up to 20% for all orders compared with the official channel, and it provides an 80% off for your first purchase. It's 100% safe as you will only be using your UID. We will buy pack for 3000 Stellar Jades for $42, which otherwise would have costed $50. Totally saving $7.5. We received the crystals we purchased in the less than 3 minutes. All recharges will be done through the official channel with miHoYo, which allows you to enjoy all top-up offers. Ready to level up your gaming experience? Check the link in the description to get the amazing discount. In this video, we are going to talk about her base stats. Fugue's stats are actually pretty average. She has a decent amount of HP and attack, but her defense and speed are well balanced. When compared to characters with similar roles, like Harmony Trailblazer, Fugue has a slight advantage in HP and attack, with defense and speed being almost equal. She also has an advantage over other similar characters, like Runmei, in HP and defense. Since Fugue is a character who focuses more on support, her current base stats are actually quite good. She also has an additional 14 points in speed, thanks to her minor traits, which we will discuss later. One of this character's best abilities is called a Virtue Beckons Please. It's interesting because it lets her give an ally a buff called a Function Prayer, which increases break effect by 30% at level 10. The most interesting thing about this skill is that the recipient of the buff gets an increase in break effect and can reduce the toughness of the enemy by 50% of the original toughness damage, regardless of the type. In addition, when the recipient of the buff from Function Prayer attacks, Fugue can give an 18% defense reduction debuff to the enemy. But before we talk more about this debuff, there's something important to understand. Even though the Fugue gives a buff called Function Prayer to the ally in the team, when the ally attacks the enemy and inflicts a defense reduction debuff on the enemy, the character who gives the debuff to the enemy is not the ally with Function Prayer, but the Fugue itself. To use this debuff properly, you need an effect hit rate of at least 67%. This defense reduction is also good for increasing Super Break damage. The damage formula for Super Break has several components, one of which is the defense multiplier. This will also affect the amount of Super Break generated. Isn't that interesting? This defense reduction skill not only affects the amount of Super Break done, but it can also be used with certain hypercarry units that depend on critical damage, like Acheron, to significantly boost the damage. This skill's debuff reduces the enemy's defense. Another interesting thing about this skill is that it makes character of any type reduce enemy toughness, regardless of type. This skill is ideal for characters with AoE kits that attack the enemy as a whole, reducing all enemies' toughness at once. Some characters that are good candidates for this buff are Lingsha and Aventurine. Besides having interesting skill to discuss, Fugue's ultimate also has some discussions that we must discuss. Fugue's ultimate kit, named Solar Splendor Shines Upon All, can attack all enemies in the field with fire damage equal to 200% of Fugue's attack. The advantage of Fugue's ultimate is that it can reduce the toughness of all enemies in the field, regardless of their type. This ultimate is very effective and can help speed up the process of weakening the enemy. In comparison, Harmony Trailblazer lacks a similar ultimate. One important thing to discuss is how Fugue's ultimate uses energy. Fugue's ultimate costs 1-3 energy, which is reasonable compared to other characters with a support role, like Sunday and Runmei. So what's the difference between Fugue and these characters? The main difference is that Fugue doesn't have a kit to support the energy she gets, unlike Sunday, who starts with extra energy, or Runmei, who gets more energy with each wave. Fugue doesn't have this advantage. Fugue's ultimate ability is very strong, but it's hard to use because there aren't any kits or light cones that can help provide energy. Fugue will use her enhanced basic attack each turn she gets, That means she's a positive SP unit, which is good. However, this means she gains less energy per turn. I've created a simulation of the rotation skill she used during the battle. At the beginning of the battle, Fugue will be able to use her ultimate on the second or third turn, depending on how much energy she gains from outside sources during the battle. Normally, or after using the ultimate for the first time, Fugue needs at least 4 or 5 turns to use this ultimate again. This takes a long time, doesn't it? However, you can speed up the process by using relics with main stat energy regeneration on your rope. However, if you use the main stat energy regeneration on the rope and not the break effect, it will be quite difficult to reach the 220% break effect threshold required by the Fugue kit to be optimal. This is unless you have Fugue's signature light cone called A Long Road Leads Home or Fugue's EIDOLON 2, which can provide additional energy when the enemy is weakness broken. Quite challenging, isn't it? Okay, next we will move on to Fugue's enhanced basic attack called Fiery Caress. This enhanced basic attack will give fire damage equivalent to 100% of Fugue's attack to the main target, and 50% of Fugue's attack to the surrounding targets. Honestly, the effect of this enhanced basic attack is very similar to her regular basic attack version. But the difference is that in the enhanced version, this basic attack can deal additional damage to nearby enemies. The effect of this basic attack is quite ordinary without any effect, but precisely because Fugue is a character who very often uses this enhanced basic attack, Fugue can certainly be a character with positive SP. Here's an example of a simulation of the use of SP used by Fugue. You can see in the table in this video, Fugue is a character who is very economical in using SP, and she can even provide an additional 1 SP per 3 turns, which means Fugue will contribute 0.33 SP every turn. Interesting, isn't it? Next, we will talk about Tingyun's technique called Percipient Shine. After using this technique, nearby enemies will be dazed for 10 seconds. If you attack an enemy who is dazed and enters the battle, Fugue will get an action advance of 40%, and the enemy will receive a defense reduction debuff equal to that of her skill. This technique is actually quite good. If your Fugue has a high speed, this technique will give your Fugue the first turn to move, which means you can give the Function Prayer buff to your ally at the start of the battle. Also, reducing all enemies' defense at the start of the battle is a great idea. This will increase your super break damage output. Also, Fugue has a permanent super break buff that will be active at all times. Fugue also has other highlighted kits that must be considered. One of these is her talent named Fortune Follows Wherever It Spreads. Many people want to get this talent because it's the main one that makes a difference. When Fugue is in the field and the enemy's toughness reaches 0, the enemy will get an additional toughness called Cloud Flame Blaster, equivalent to 40% of her maximum toughness. This talent also gives all teammates in your party a super break effect. Isn't that interesting? Some of you might not fully understand the effect of this kit, right? I will explain to you in this video. This kit makes things more durable, and that can affect a lot of different things for a lot of different characters. Himeko's kit is an easy example. Himeko is a character that focuses on area attacks that rely on follow-up attacks. If she has 3 charge points, which she gets when the enemy experiences a weakness break, her follow-up attack will be triggered. With Fugue in the battle, triggering a weakness break becomes easier because every enemy in the field will have 2 layers of toughness. So, when Himeko uses her special move, she will do 2 times more damage because of Fugue's talent. Absolutely great, right? Okay, now we will move on to the Fugue's traces section. But before that, we will try to discuss a little about her trace bonus first. Fugue has a trace bonus that increases break effect by 24%, speed by 14 points, and HP by 10%. These 3 minor traces are quite useful, especially the break effect and speed ones. The break effect is useful for meeting the 220% break effect threshold, while speed is useful for increasing the damage of super break and the effectiveness of the kit she has. This additional 14 points of speed is one of the highest speed bonuses in the game. With this speed, Fugue can easily reach 160 speed with various relics and buffs. Okay, we've discussed a little about her minor traces. Now, let's look at the 3 main traces that make Fugue's kit even more interesting. First, there's the Verdantia Renaissance trace. When the enemy experiences a weakness break, their turn is delayed by 15%. This is quite interesting because Fugue will more often be on the super break team, so this trace will definitely be active very easily. In fact, Harmony Trailblazer can delay actions by 30%, which is twice as much as Fugue. But remember that Fugue has a Cloud Flame Laser that can weaken the enemy twice as much. So, the delay in action for both Harmony Trailblazer and Fugue is the same, which is 30%. The second trace, named Sylvan Enigma, will provide an extra break effect of 30% to Fugue. When using the skill for the first time, it will also give extra skill points. This trace is also good, with the addition of a permanent break effect that makes it easier for Fugue to reach the 220% break effect threshold. Also, the addition of one skill point when using the skill for the first time is very helpful in regulating the use of SP at the beginning of the fight, making Fugue's skill named Virtue Beckons Please can definitely be active. Then for the last trace named Vecda Primoria. When the enemy is weakness broken, all allies will get an extra 6% break effect, which can be added twice. However, if you have a total break effect of 220%, this will increase again by 12%. Fugue's special requirement to maximize her kits means that the number of break effect statuses must reach 220%. The effect of this trace is valuable because it adds a total of 36% break effect to all teammates, which clearly increases the amount of super break damage generated. Finally, we get to the next part, which is the Eidolon that belongs to Fugue. For Fugue's Eidolon 1, which is named Earthbound Iwas Cloudward IB, will give the effect of adding weakness break efficiency by 50% to the ally who gets the Function Prayer buff. Of course, this is a great buff. For those of you who might be confused, what is weakness break efficiency? Weakness break efficiency is a special buff that can increase the damage toughness we have to the enemy. With the addition of the weakness break efficiency buff, all toughness attacks belonging to characters who receive buffs from Function Prayer will be much greater. This means the enemy will be faster to hit by weakness break. On average, characters deal 20 toughness damage per skill. This number will obviously increase with Fugue's Eidolon, going up to 30 toughness per skill. If we assume that we attack elite-type enemies that we fight quite often these days, such as Malefic Ape, Disciples of Sanctus, or Howling Casket, then we only need 4 attacks to make them break their weakness. However, without the weakness break efficiency, you would need to attack 6 times to break their weakness. As for Eidolon 2, which is named Beauty Downs for the Worthy, it has a very interesting effect. When the enemy is weakness broken, Fugue will get 3 energy. Also, after using the ultimate, it will give action advance to all team members by 24%. Isn't that pretty interesting? Of course. This Eidolon 2 solves one of her major problems. The ultimate move is very hard to use. As I mentioned earlier, Fugue's ability to get extra energy to use her ultimate is still a problem. However, with the addition of 3 energy every time the enemy is weakened, it will certainly speed up the Fugue to use her ultimate. It's even possible that she can use her ultimate every 3 turns, and maybe even faster if she is in pure fiction mode. Also, it's important to note that giving all team members an action advance buff of 24% is a significant boost. This is similar to the effect of the Light Count, a well-known ability in this game called Dance Dance Dance. Eidolon 2 is a really worth upgrade because it can improve Fugue's performance a lot. Next is Eidolon 4, named Bereft to Form, which named to Bear. It has an effect that will increase the break damage generated by an ally who receives a buff from Function Prayer by 20%. This effect is interesting, but Eidolon 4 effects are not suitable for all characters, especially those who do not rely on break damage to produce damage output. Function Prayer is a common buff that many characters can use, but not all characters that use break damage are in the break team category, like Venturin for example. Venturin with the Function Prayer buff is very good on the Acheron team, because every time he attacks, he reduces the enemy's defense and gives Acheron a stack. However, the addition of break damage will not have any effect on Venturin, because he is not a character that relies on break damage. Therefore, the addition of Eidolon 4 does not seem universal enough. The last is Eidolon 6, which is named Clairvoyance of Boom and Doom. Eidolon 6 will increase Fugue's weakness break efficiency by 50% and gives the Function Prayer effect to all allies in the Torrid Scorch state. Honestly, the effect of Fugue's Eidolon 6 feels overpowered. With Eidolon 6, all allies will get the effect of Function Prayer, which means that all allies will be able to reduce enemy toughness, no matter what type they have. So, with Fugue on the team, we can bring any team to fight enemies of any type. Well, I think this is very worthwhile Eidolon to get. Okay, now we will move on to the signature icon that she has, which is named Long Road Leads Home. This signature icon will give an additional break effect to the user by 60%. In addition, when an enemy gets weakness break, there's a 100% chance to cause debuff called Charring, which will increase the break damage received by 18%. And this debuff can be stacked 2 times. This signature icon feels very good and very worthy because in addition to being able to provide a significant increase in break effect, which is 60%, giving the debuff to increase break damage to the enemy by 36% will also increase the damage output that the team will produce. Then is this signature icon worth getting? Well, if you use Fugue for characters who are not included in the break team such as Himeko and Acheron, then obviously this icon will feel less worth it. However, if most of the use of Fugue is for the break team, then this icon will be very worth getting. Moreover, with the addition of a 60% break effect, you can use Rope with the main stat energy regeneration to increase Fugue's energy income to speed up her ultimate. And finally, we come to the discussion about builds, which you might be waiting for. What is the best build for Fugue? Well, let's find out here. There are 2 set relics that are suitable for use by Fugue. The first set is called Iron Cavalry against the Scourge. This relic is very useful for characters on the break team because it can increase the break effect by 16%. Also, when the user has a break effect above 250%, it will ignore 25% defense from the enemy targets. You can use this relic for Fugue, but it's not essential. Fugue is a support character, so the defense ignore effect isn't that important for her. Meanwhile, the second relic that's also great for Fugue is called the Thief of Shooting Meteor. Actually, I like this relic set more than the previous one. First, it provides more break effect than the Iron Cavalry against the Scourge. Second, it gives the user an extra 3 energy points every time the user successfully weakens the enemy. As I mentioned before, Fugue's energy settings are a bit weak, so this relic will definitely help. What about the planar ornament that is suitable for Fugue? Right now, there are 2 planar ornaments that work well with Fugue. The first is the Forge of the Calpatny Lantern. This planar ornament is a very good and suitable planar ornament for use by Fugue. It can provide bonus speed to users, and Fugue is a character with a fire type that is very suitable for fighting enemies that have a weakness to fire. The addition of break effect of 40% will often be active. The second planar ornament is Talia, Kingdom of Banditry. This is a reserve ornament that you can use when facing enemies that aren't weak to fire, or when pairing Fugue with characters that don't have fire implants, like Firefly. Okay, next we will move on to the recommended stat that you should use for Fugue. Because the Fugue kit has several requirements that you must pay attention to, then more or less for the status you are looking for is as follows. Then what about her light cone? For Fugue, of course, I recommend her signature light cones. This light cone can provide a significant break effect, which is 60%, and a damage break addition debuff that triggers every time the enemy is hit by weakness broken. This can be stacked up to 2 times, and it's a great choice for Fugue or characters who join a team that focuses on break. This light cone also makes it easier to achieve Fugue's break effect requirement. The second light cone that I highly recommend as a free-to-play option is a Resolution Shines as Pearls of Sweat. This light cone is great for Fugue because it gives a defense reduction debuff that works for the whole team, not just the break team. While it doesn't add break effect, the defense reduction debuff slightly increases the team's damage output, whether paired with a break team or an Acheron team. As I mentioned at the start of the video, defense reduction can also boost super break damage. Apart from these 2 light cones, you can also use another light cone that is quite free-to-play friendly, namely a light cone called Solitary Healing. You can get this light cone for free at the Herta shop. This light cone is useful because it can increase the user's break effect by 40% on Super Impulse 5. It can also provide additional energy when the enemy loses due to damage over time caused by the user. Pretty interesting, right? Okay, finally we come to the last segment, which is the best teammates to pair with Fugue. Who is the best character to pair with Fugue? Let's take a look. The first is Rappa. Rappa's strategy is to generate as many weakness breaks to the enemy as possible to increase her energy. Fugue's Cloud Flame Blaster will certainly allow her to get twice the charge, which means she gets twice the energy. This will basically increase the damage she deals and the energy she gains from her talents. The second is Boot Heal. With Fugue, Boot Heal can now get all 3 pocket tricks in just one attack. which is one of the standard break, one from the Cloud Flame Blaster, and one upon defeating an enemy. To do so, Puthill must deal enough toughness damage to break through the standard toughness bar and Cloud Flame Blaster's extra 40% bar. Fugue also doubles the damage he deals when dealing weakness break damage, as he gets 2 breaks instead of 1 break per target. Like Rappa, Fugue's Cloud Flame Blaster makes Himeko's talent and charge ability better, but it also makes it difficult to use all the charge she generates because there's a limit to the amount of charge she can have, which is 3 charges. Apart from that, Fugue also helps Himeko deal with enemies that don't have fire weakness and can give her super break ability. Okay guys, I think that's all for now. What do you think about Fugue? Is she a really good support for Break Team? Please feel free to comment down below and don't forget to check out my another video. Thanks for watching, stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in the next video.